and welcome back to
Inspired a Game. I'm Sean.
And I'm Lola. If you enjoy what you see here, please support our channel by subscribing down below.
And if you already subscribed, thank you very much. Now, take a hike.
And on that note, today we are talking about parks. We are talking about parks as well as Wildlife, the expansion to parks, as well as Nightfall, the other expansion to parks, and Trails. As you can see, a very similar game. We are going to do a complete overview of parks, give you our review on it, as well as the two expansions, tell you which ones you should have, which ones you should avoid, if any, and whether it's worth it, and compare them to Trails. And is it worth having that too? Is one better than the other? We'll let you know. Now, we are also featuring a giveaway today, sponsored by Keymaster Games, so we're very grateful for them. They have sent us this copy of Parks to give away to one of you. As well, they sent us the Trails for our review.
So both Trails and Parks are a collaboration between Keymaster Games and the 59 Parks print series. They both, the artwork in both games is directly from that print series, featuring 40 artists from around the world and artwork from all the U.S. national parks. Really beautiful artwork.
Now, we will also let you know that there's a lot that we're covering within this video. So if you want to jump around to what you're most interested in, we'll have the timestamps down below. So if you just want to know about Wildlife or Nightfall or Trails, you can use that to navigate to what you want to see. Now we will begin with a quick overview of how to play Parks.
Each game of Parks represents a year of hiking the trails of the U.S. national parks. Each player will start with one canteen, a year-end goal card, 2 hikers, and a campfire. Each round represents a season of hiking a specific trail determined by randomly laying out the trail markers and flipping over a season card, which gives you a round bonus, as well as a weather pattern for bonus resources along the trail. Each turn, a player will move one of their hikers to any of the trail sites. Distance doesn't matter. When they reach the trail site they want, if there is a weather token there, they take it, before taking the action or resources represented by the site. This can include taking photographs, gaining more canteens, or other actions. Each trail site can only have one hiker unless a player uses their campfire. This can only be used once until the campfire is relit. Play continues like this back and forth. When you get a hiker to the end, you can reignite your campfire, and then you get to take the actions from the trail end, such as reserving a park, buying gear, or using the resources that you gathered along the trail to buy a park and gain its end game points. Once there is one lone hiker on the trail, the only action they can take is to move their hiker to the trail end with everybody else. At the end of the round, all the trail sites are gathered, a new one is added from the top of the pile, they are shuffled, and a new trail is laid out, now slightly longer, and all the hikers go back to the trailhead and start their new hike. This continues for a total of 4 seasons, equaling 1 year, at the end of which all the endgame scoring is added up, and you see who won.
Parks is a game that we have had in our collection for a few years now, and it's one that I find has a lot of staying power. Very often you get really excited about a game and you play it and it's great, but then it stays stuck on your shelf. Parks has never been like that for us. It is a lightweight, easy one to bring out for when you just have 30 minutes to an hour to play, and when you don't really want to be thinking about something too heavy.
One of the great things I like about Parks itself is that it's one of the smaller box games, but inside it's got a fantastic game trays, and there is a nook for every last little element. There's a bit for the camera, there's a bit for the first player token. Everything has a place. It fits together wonderfully. The trays look like logs, and they have all of your tokens that you need. Just the production quality is wonderful.
Yeah, and those tokens are also nice shaped pieces of wood. And if you look at the wild tokens, they're all unique wildlife. Each one is completely different than everybody else, and that's a really nice aspect of that as well. And the artwork too is absolutely gorgeous, and the cards are nice and large, so as the as they emerge, as you collect them, you get to really appreciate all of the art created by so many different artists as well. So it's just a beautiful game to behold. And it is a light game, but it's still a nice little thinky puzzle too. Nothing very difficult. This is definitely a gateway game that you can play with just about anybody. And I think one of my favorite things about it is its immersive theme. It's peaceful and it's a delight to play. So now on to Wildlife. This was the next expansion that we got. What does Wildlife add to the game?
Well, I can tell you, it adds some more parks, different artwork. It adds some more canteens, some more gear, some more seasons, a few more wildlife tokens, a few more photographs, but pretty much it's just more stuff. It does add a few extra gameplay elements. There's a few extra sites that have different actions, as well as the parks now have an instant action you get when you visit it in the end.
Yeah, so it mostly just adds more of everything. It does have some slight changes to gameplay by offering you to take 2 canteens and 2 year cards and choose between instead of just one, and that does enhance the game. It makes it that little bit better. As well, it has extra variability of your trail sites with the new ones, and it adds a bison token that you place on one of the cards. Now the card that's on, the park that it's on, is one that you can't reserve and gives you an extra benefit when you purchase that card. Now into Nightfall expansion.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
Here I'm thinking, oh no, technical difficulties have ensued.
It just hit me. And now on to Nightfall.
So, Nightfall expansion actually changes the play and flow of the game. It offers additional gameplay. How does it do that?
Well, in addition, it also adds more parks, again with instant actions, a little bit different than Wildlife. It adds more canteens, more gear, but the biggest change is the year-end scoring. The year-end scoring that used to be get 2 points for visiting a certain number of parks or 3 points for slightly more. Now you're getting more points for 1 point per set of 3 parks that have certain tokens and things like that. So much more variable, easier to get, and more exciting, I think, than the original year cards.
And what can be argued as even a more important change than that, although that's a good one as well, is the addition of campsites. So this game includes an entirely different area which you can go to and visit for some additional action spots. How this works is as you go down the path, you can choose to use the site that you've arrived at and receive the tokens there. Or if there is a tent, you can take that tent and bring it to any of the available sites and get that action instead. So it brings a whole lot of variability. Once a site has a tent on it, nobody else can use that for the rest of this round. One of the spots that you can bring one of these tents to allows you to get additional year cards, which are really useful. So not only do you have 1 year card, which gives you additional potential for endgame scoring, but you can gather more and accrue lots of potential endgame scoring through that mechanism. So in a way, Nightfall brings a lot more strategic changes to the game. Thank you. So you should do that more often when you're like struggling for words. Just fill it in. Like, don't hesitate.
What is word?
What is word?
Galaxy.
Okay. Now, as promised, we're going to talk about these expansions in respect to the game. Is it worth having them? And if so, which ones? What do we think of them? To begin with, I love them both. I think they're both fantastic, and I think that they both add a good amount to the play. However, having said that, I feel that Nightfall is the most important one because it does the most to change actual gameplay in a positive way that enhances that enhances strategy and the complexity of the game.
See, I agree absolutely. So, just the changes with Nightfall, especially with those year cards, are the biggest and the best change. Wildlife is wonderful. It gives you more places to go, more variability in the gameplay, but Nightfall is where it's at.
Yeah, yeah. So if you could only get one expansion, absolutely, hands down, get Nightfall. They both give you more cards, both give you more things, but it's just so much meatier. But as I said, I like having them both, and I think that it's worth having them both. But I would not play Parks anymore without those new year cards that you get from Nightfall, because it enhances it so much.
And one minor thing to mention, which kind of doesn't really... So Nightfall itself has its own game tray layout that puts everything in a wonderful little position. Wildlife doesn't. Wildlife, you have to pile in with the original base game, and they tightly pack that. There's not a lot of room in there. It doesn't fit as nicely with Wildlife, but you can make it work.
But you can't fit all, that is a really good point, because you can't fit all 3 expansions in one box. No. And that's probably our only regret about it, is you do have to have 2 boxes. Yeah, because Wildlife fits in the original box, but Nightfall doesn't. It doesn't all fit together. So it would be nice if it was, but now Trails. I heard of Trails, and because we liked Parks so much, I thought this might be up our alley, but I knew it was very similar. I knew it was a little bit lighter, and the impression I had was it's just a lighter version. And then at which point, well, is it worth getting? Now, before we get into our thoughts on Trails, we're going to give you a very quick overview to show you how it is played. In Trails, you play a hiker traversing various locations over the course of a day. To begin, you can move 1 or 2 places along the trail and then perform its action or take its corresponding resource. Over the course of the game, you're collecting rocks, leaves, and acorns, which you will use to purchase badges that will give you your end game scoring. If you move onto a spot with the bear, that allows you to roll a die and move the bear to a different location, or the same rolled, and get that additional resource. In this way, the bear will be moving through the various locations. In Trails, you are permitted to be on the same location as another hiker. It doesn't matter at all. Once you reach one end, and you can only make a jump greater than 2 if you use your canteen. If you've used your canteen already, you must do the 1 or 2 spaces only. When you get to the end of the trail, you'll turn your hiker facing the new direction. Wherever the sun location is, you will get that benefit. In the case of the end here, it lets you roll again and move the bear to a different location and get that resource. And then you can purchase badges using the resources that you have accrued so far. There will be 2 badges at the end that you are. Those are the ones you get to choose from, as well as one that is in your hand. The one that is in your hand is your own to complete at your leisure. Once you have paid resources to gain a badge or 2, and then a good thing to note is that you can never have more than 8 resources at a time, then you are ready to proceed back to the other end of the trail. One of the actions that you can do along the trail is you can give a resource that you have already gathered to take a picture. To take a picture, you will be taking 2 cards and choosing between them, or choosing the top one from the discard pile. They will each have additional endgame scoring points, possibly 0, 1, 2, or 3, and they may have birds on them. Birds can also be found on certain badges as well, and at the end of the game, whoever has accrued the most birds will get the bird trophy for an additional 4 points. When you reach the trail beginning again, you get to do the same thing of purchasing any badges that you can based on the resources that you have accrued, and then you turn around to begin your way back up. You also get to refill your canteen if you had used it. At the trail end, one other thing you need to do is move the sun forward 1 location. Play continues like this, with hikers working their way up, taking badges at one end, and then working their way back, taking badges at that end based on the resources they have accrued. Now, another interesting feature with the game is as you reach the trail end, you take the benefit of where the sun is, and then the sun moves to the next location. If it has passed a tile, that tile is turned over, and this signifies the falling of night. It is getting late. This continues as each person reaches that end until the sun is all the way to the very end of the trail. All of the tiles are turn to night, and the day is over, and the game is done. Now you add up all your points and your birds and see who won. And that's how you play Trails. As you can see, there's some similarities between Trails and Parks, but there's a lot of differences too. Some of the things that I really like about Trails is, to start off with, the variability of the movement. I like how you can share the same spot as your fellow hikers. It feels more friendly to me to be able to share locations and not have that to be a difficulty.
Yeah, that was one of the things that was always the most perplexing with Parks was that's the spot that I wanted to take. Yeah. And, I've already used my campsite. So now where am I? And I'm stuck making movements that I didn't want to move, that I didn't want to make.
Yeah, so it makes it a little bit more friendly. Visually, I like how the trail sites are larger and they have more beautiful art as well. I really like those trail sites, and I especially love how they change to night little bit by little bit by little bit. And by doing that, they change the power of each one. So as they change to night, you get to collect more resources, so they get more powerful, and it looks beautiful, and it's very thematic. Mm-hmm. I also love how you're
Yes, it is.
I also love how you're collecting rocks, acorns, and leaves. It's fun because these are the things that as kids we got to do, and it just kind of brings you back. It's hard to describe, but I love how it is so thematic with that addition. Although my one complaint about that is that they're just little cubes.
It's a lot like playing a tiny little version of Minecraft.
Yeah, they're little cubes when they could be nice little resource tokens like Parks. And I'm not sure why that choice is made, because it would be so much nicer if they were little leaves and little rocks and little acorns. The pictures are nicer too in Trails. They're larger, they have beautiful pictures on them, and they have variable scoring, which makes the taking a picture action much more fun and enjoyable. So because there's that surprise, and important too, yeah, because there's that, because you can get 0 or 1 or 2 or 3, so there's that variability. But there's also the birds, and that makes it really fun too, because you can collect you can try to focus on collecting the birds and not mind the points as much, because it's actually really lucrative to try to go for a bird award, those extra 4 points. Mm-hmm. Pretty much every time we played, whoever has won by within 4 points, and usually they got the most birds. It's something that feels more useful to me than in Parks. In Parks, taking the photos are small. It's kind of hard to see what they look like. They're all 1 point. It feels a little monotonous in comparison. It never feels very worth it, because you have to pay 2 resources to get it, that 1 point, and very often those resources feel like they're better to be used towards purchasing Parks. So we don't tend to take as many photos in Parks, but in Trails, it's a big part of the game, and you want to get those photos are much more useful, and I like that.
Mm-hmm. Another great part about Trails is when you see wildlife represented by that bear token, and it gives you just that extra little bonus, something. It could be more resources just when you need them. It could be taking another photo just when you need it, and it's just a nice extra oomph to the game.
Yeah, it's really useful and fun, and you can work your strategy around trying to make it to the bear as much as you can. And which brings me to another point that I have. I really like how there's a lot of freedom in your movement, how you can actually wind up heading in opposite directions as your other players. It's not like Parks where everybody's heading down, and once everybody's down, it's reset and you start at the beginning and everybody heads down. In Trails, you're just meandering back and forth until the sun starts to set, and you can wind up going in opposite direction as your opponent, and that actually can be really useful because you're working towards the badges. In a 2-player game anyway, mm-hmm. If you're headed in one direction, I'm headed for these badges. I don't have competition for them. I know that I'll be able to get what I'm getting if my opponent is heading in the other direction working on these badges. So there's a way to be nice and strategic about that as well. It makes it a little bit different though if you have more than 2 players, because then you're going to be having for sure 2 players heading towards the same end, which means that you're going to be spending more time vying for the same badges. which isn't necessarily an issue because you're collecting enough resources, and it's only the 3 that chances are, if new ones come up, you'll be able to get them. And a big boon in that case is you do have your secret personal badge that no matter what, you can always get. So say if you're headed down to a side and an opponent came in and took the badge that you were going for, well, you know, at least if you also were able to get the one in your hand, you can still get that one. And when you purchase the one that's in your hand, you get to draw another that is another of your own secret badge that you can work on. So you don't have to worry as much about the constant changing variability of badges available. Now, to do a direct comparison, production quality, Parks has trails blown out of the water. So you've got those beautiful game trays, you've got the really nice shaped resources, you have the big beautiful cards, and there's so many of them of all the different card art. But yet still there are some advantages to the trails production with having nicer trails. Like, I think the trail sites are nicer in trails as well. The photos are much nicer in trails than they are in parks. So yeah. And one thing that we like better about trails is that, to me, it feels a little bit more thematic with picking up those resources, and that the night is falling as you go. So that trail site is physically changing as you go along your day.
Now, that being said, one of the things I prefer about parks is the canteens turn it more into an engine builder. If you have the right combination of canteens, you can fill them one after the other, and they can really add into your resources.
Yeah.
But resources in parks, you can have 12 as a maximum. In trails, you're only allowed 8.
So now I have a question for you. After all that, is, do you have a fundamental favorite? Like, so, okay, let's say you can only have one. Parks or trails? Which would you choose?
It is a tough choice. A lot of people have said to us that they prefer trails at a 2-player account and parks at a higher player account. I can see why they would say that. And removing player count from it and the differences it makes in gameplay, I would still say I think parks edges out trails for me because of the engine building aspect of the canteens.
And I think I would be the opposite. So I love parks, and I wasn't expecting to love trails as much as I do, and I do. So I love them both, and they both have a place in my collection, but if I could only have one, for me it would be trails. There's enough benefit to the thematic changes, to the more friendliness of it, that I think, and I still find it very strategic as well. And like getting those badges and stuff, that I think trails is my favorite of the two, particularly at 2-player. But as I said, and I gotta say it again, I love them both, and they both have a place in my collection, and I'll continue to play them both. But we have played now parks at a higher player count, whereas previously we had only done it on 2, and we do think that parks plays a little bit nicer at the higher player count because it does add a little bit of more strategy when you have a lot more hikers that you're leapfrogging along that path with. Makes it more interesting. To finish up, we're going to give a recap of everything and talk about that giveaway. So first off, so stay tuned. So first off, parks, great game to have. Both expansions are great, Nightfall and Wildlife, but our favorite of the two is Nightfall. It is the most useful of the two, and Trails is also a fantastic game, and it's all worth having in your collection. To enter into the giveaway, all you need to do, and I'll bring it out so you can see it, see how beautiful and wonderful it looks. All you need to do is like, subscribe, and comment down below. Just to be clear on who's actually entering it, comment #parks if you want to enter into the draw. More details about the draw, in case we've missed something important here, will be in the description below. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching today. We hope you got some value from this review, and good luck in the draw if you are entering.
As always, thank you for sticking with us. Check out some of our other videos, and happy gaming, folks.